Okay, so let's get this fact straight as our foundational knowledge. Linux is the basis of several free operating systems powered by open source technology and available in rich variants for download on the internet. It has successfully rivaled closed source operating systems such as Microsoft and Apple OS, which are very expensive to buy and maintain. Examples of Linux-based systems are Ubuntu, CentOS, or CentOS as you would want to put it, or might put it, Fedora, Ubuntu, Arch Linux, Debian, GNU, etc. They are all based on Linux kernel, which welds them together as very useful and powerful open source platform. Now, let's talk about the financial perspective. Extremely cheap to install and maintain. All over the world, several small, medium, and large enterprises have developed or adopted Linux operating systems since it's very cost effective. Now, let's talk about the internal process perspective. GNOME is one of the bundles that Linux operating systems comes with, which contains several useful desktops for writing and publishing calculations, presentations, drawings, just to mention a few, rather than procuring them separately. Now, let's move to the customer perspective. Well community maintained and updated, it's very well competes and in most occasions outperforms closed source operating systems. Learning group perspective. Linux is also the basis for Android operating system, which makes it the reason why the mobile operating system is free and is being maintained by Google. Google, as a little compensation for its time in maintaining the mobile OS, uses the platform to market its products. Okay, so now here is the Linux variations in a single chart. You have the operating systems, the Linux kernels, then of course you have Ubuntu, Red Hat, Debian, Fedora, Arch, Pop, OpenSUSE, Black Lab, Slackware, FLAVOUR and the like. Now, Netrunner, Slacker, POS, Mageia, PC Linux OS, Zorin, Boson Labs, Kubuntu, Majuro, Budi, Neptune, Kali, Solos variants, and so on and so forth. There's also, of course, the Kali Linux. Okay, now these are like just a short overview of the Linux variants and the flavor perspectives. You have the Debian Fedora. Debian is a Linux-based free operating system powered by Linux. It ships with over 45,000 software packages. Alternatively, Fedora is a Linux-based, of course, it's Linux-based with workstation, server, and atomic configurations separately. Linux makes it one of the most beautiful, sleek, attractive, elegant, and strong variants of Linux-based operating systems. Ubuntu is one of the most popular, tried and tested Linux-based operating systems that handles Kubernetes, OpenStack, cloud computing, Internet of Things, lots of software developer-friendly features. CentOS. This is a community-driven open source Linux-based operating systems that provides OS images for Google, Amazon, and a whole bunch of others. You simply go online and type Kali Linux download. Yeah, this is the website from Google search. Now you can choose the platforms. There are several platforms here that you can explore. Then of course you have Get Kali, you have the blog, you have the documentation, you have the community, you have the courses, you have the developers, the Git repositories and all that. It's a very exciting variant of Linux. So then you have the installer images, the virtual images and the likes. You have the ARM, you have the mobile, the cloud, the containers, the live boots, the WSL, the build scripts. Okay, so for this occasion let's just go with this single or multiple boot Kali, giving you complete control over the hardware access, perfect for inbuilt Wi-Fi GPU, enabling the best performance. So now here you go, you have the installation documentation you can explore, always explore. Now these are little things you need to know about the Kali. Kali is a rolling Linux distribution, meaning as soon as we have an update, we ship it. Would-be users have a variety of images to choose from. For more information, please see which image should I download. Kali branches. For most users, we recommend the latest point release image below, except in cases when a user requires a specific bug patch, in which case the weekly build may be the best. So the point release is one I'm going to go for. Generate fresh Kali Linux image files every quarters. Okay, so that's the update cycle. Okay, so this is it. You have the 64-bit, you have the, of course, 32-bit, then you have the Apple Silicon. So ensure you click on this, the 64-bit. You can download directly. This is about 3.6 gigabytes, or you can use the torrents. If you have a torrent client, just download through it, you know, or the SOM. This one is the encrypted file, but I usually recommend either directly or through the torrent. So the moment you click on download directly, you're going to see it download straight on into your computer, and that is that. Okay, depending on the speed of your computer, it might just take a while to download. So with that done, once you download, the next thing you might want to do is download Rufus. That's Rufus. If it's for the Linux, it has both Linux and you can see the image there. It's used for burning. So once the ISO downloads, you can use Rufus with an empty available USB drive to burn the content of the Kali Linux into a disk. So you will now you go to your BIOS, set the bootable as USB, because bootable is always boot from the hand, depending on your preference. You go to the boot options, and then you select the USB to boot first. Thereafter, you will start the system with the USB inserted, and then you start the installation process. The very first thing you see when installing Kali Linux is a series of sequence or algorithms that runs behind or as a preempt before the real interface starts. Now, okay, so here is the language. You select the language that you understand. There are several languages Kali Linux identifies, so you set the appropriate one that refers to your use. Okay, the next thing is the location where you are located. So ensure you select the right place that refers to you. Now the keyboard also is very important. Your keyboard are of different there are different configurations, the hardware configurations of keyboard. So you select the one that you know is best fitted for your use. There you see a whole long list of keyboard key map configurations, with the signs. Now here is the mount installation media. When you get to this area, you're supposed to click yes, just in case if your USB is shaky or is not identifiable. This is what this stands for, and sometimes you might have to just reset it twice and of course click here because it's asking that your installation media couldn't be mounted when installing from CD-ROM. This probably means the disk is not in the drive, so you might have to reset it, severally before it detects. And once it detects, just know that in this specific area you're supposed to click yes and not no. Okay, you want to insert and try it again, so you can remove it and then reset it and of course click continue. You can see that it's still, as at this moment the disk is still not detectable. So okay, now look at this. That specific area there is, let me just flick back there. Let's go on. Now these are the choices. Why this screen is coming back and forth is because it's here to detect the disk for the installation. And once it does that, it's going to skip through and continue with the process of installation. Now here we see the configuration or option for the wireless, so you can as well choose the one that is best appropriate for you. Otherwise you can ignore this and go back to the next option. Now here you see, this is the area where you choose your wireless electronic protocol. Okay, so usually you choose the web open, and that will give open access to the wireless connectivity within that you're trying to configure with the operating system. Otherwise you choose the WPA, which of course implements some form of security. Now okay, you're still on the network. Okay, it says if applicable, choose to enter the WIP security key. That's if your wireless has a password, you can choose to enter this. But this, you can actually skip this area just in case, but for the process of or purpose of you understanding the process of installing the Linux, this variant of Linux, you should get to know about all this. As you can see, we went back there, and because we don't really know, we don't want to configure the password for now, so that can be skipped. So you move on to the setup user and password, and before then, now this area is very sensitive. This particular installation process has a 1 terabyte hard disk drive. Now you need to understand the difference between primary partition and logical partition. Okay, The primary partition is where the operating system, your files, your home, your directory, your documents, desktop, downloads, and so on and so forth, and the bulk. So the primary partition should have the highest allocation of space. Okay, now the logical, for a Linux, you need to have two logicals. All right, after the primary partition, which has the highest allocation of space, the logical, and then of course you have another one as well that you call or you refer to as maybe the swap or thereabout. Okay, the swap. So right now this is the configuration of the hardware here, the spacing now, the allocation, the existing allocation. You have allocation, you have 879.6 gigabytes for as a space, then you have the logical as 107.7, then you have the primary log, which of course is the extra logical extended logical partition. You have the logical, then the extended logical, which is 12.9 gigabytes. Then of course you have the installation media. The installation media is the SanDisk 3.2 Gen 1, which is a primary, just a primary drive there with 30.8 gigabytes of data, in fact 32. So right now this particular area is sensitive because this is where you determine how you want to configure the hardware or the hard drive. Yes, that is, you're installing the Kali Linux on. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so now we're deleting the partition. We've deleted the first partition. Now you see it has turned to a free space now. After deleting, yeah, we delete the second one as well. Yeah, so you see now we have the primary log as a free space, 1 terabyte. You can see it there on the screen, just beneath the SCSI 000 SDA 1. Okay, then another thing I want to bring your attention to is the options at the top here. Like you can see there, it says partition disk. Then this is an overview of your currently configured partitions and mount options. Select a partition system mount point, free space to create partitions, or device to initialize its partition. Now Kali Linux needs at least 3 partitions. One, the primary partition, which contains your operating system files, and of course directory for documents and logs, the home directory and all that. Then it also needs a logical drive. That primary logical drive holds the like a safe space for 1 or 2 things or some other options that you might need. Then the last one is the swap. The swap directory is needed also. Linux usually requires that as well. Yeah, that place the cursor is moving now is where the installation is taking, and that is where, yes, this very place is where we want to create. Now you can see there at the top there that it's saying guided partitioning, then configure software with RAID, configure logical volume manager, configure encrypted volumes, configure ISCSI volumes. The very one, you can actually go on the manual or the guided. The guided will guide you through each step, But the manual partitioning is better if you are an expert. Okay, if you know what exactly you're doing, you should go with the manual and allocate space based on your own discretion. You can see that. So we've double clicked on the 1 terabyte. I apologize for this blurry screen. I'm actually recording from a mobile phone. So you can see that here. You see create new partition, automatically partition the free space, show cylinder head sector information. So select the first one, create new partition. Okay, now this is the maximum size that is available. Okay, now it's saying that the hint marks can be used as shortcut to specify the maximum size. Enter percentage. Yeah, you can actually specify by entering the exact space that you want, or a percentage of this. Yes, so if you have your math, if you have your calculation set, you can just enter 80% or 90% of this, and then the whole thing works out. Now let's see how to do this. Now it's also going to ask you, you see, please, how do you want, yeah, you should click on beginning when it asks you how you want it, where do you want the partition to begin. It should be at the beginning, not at the ending, please. It's very important. Now this is another very important aspect. Use as. The first option you see there is the file system. There are several file systems in Kali Linux, but I usually go with the ext4. There's also the brfs and the likes. We'll be talking more about these file systems in the future. Now mount point is this, mount option is default, label is none, result block is this, bootable flag should be, I think it should be on, because it should be where the bootable should take place. Let's now carry out the analysis of this. Now the mount point, I mustn't forget, the mount point should be in that sign, that signature you're seeing, that /. That shows that is the root. Yeah, like I was saying previously, you can see these are the various file systems that are available in Linux generally. You have the ext4 journaling system, which I usually use, the ext3, ext2, then you have the btrfs journaling file system. That one is also very popular in use. Then you have gfs, xfs, fat16, fat12, swap area. We'll be coming back to the swap area. The swap area will be one of the logical drives. Okay, physical volume for encryption, physical volume for RAID, physical volume for LVM. Do not use this partition. What we're using is the first option there. You can just leave this default. Yes, don't. Once you're done, you click on the last option and don't setting up position. Now you can see that this has taken up 900 gigabyte of space, and you have roughly 100 gigabyte of free space left. So this is where we're going to divide now for the logical drive, for the two remaining logical drives. Select the create new partition. You can see there now it's 100 gigabyte that is there. So we'll just write 50% of that, which is 50 gigabytes. Logical. The first one was primary. Now, then of course the beginning. Ensure you set it at the beginning. That's very important. Okay. Then the file system in use, just like your Windows, NTFS or FAT. Now the mount point. This mount point is not something that you should also take note. The first one was just /. Okay, so you can see that now. Now take a very good look at the options you have. You have the root file system, which I mentioned earlier. That's the /. Then the boot, you have the home for user home directories. You have the temporary files. You have static data, variable data, SRV data, OPT, user local, enter manually, you know, and then do not mount it. I think what we should choose here is the home. Then the label. The label might be something that you might want to look at as well. Now, in this area, before we go to the label, you see the mount options that can tune the behavior of file system. So I don't think you need to tamper with this. You should just leave this as it is. Now the label, you know, in my case I put logical here. Logical partition, yeah, that's the label. And the label is usually useful because sometimes when you're looking at the disks from the operating system, it will give you a sense of identity of the partitions that you are trying to modify. Don't setting up the partition, yeah. So you can see that the number one there, the hash key 1 is the primary, the hash key 5 is the logical. You are now left with remaining 50%, which is the 50 gigabyte of space that's still free. We need to allocate space to it right now. Not just space, but functionality. So you go through the same process that you did for the previous. You create new partition. This is already what we want it to be, so there's no need to modify this. Of course, it's logical, so ensure that the logical drive is selected. Yeah, then the file system is still the same as well. You don't want to change it, so there won't be conflicting file systems. Operating file systems. And these should be left as it is, defaults. Here we put logical 2 just to identify it as a different you know, identity, to give it different identification. Now look at this. Of course, I think we might still have to go back there and modify, because this is supposed to be the swap. Yeah, this is the swap area. Yeah, that reminds me, the file system is not supposed, for the last drive shouldn't be the ext4 journaling file system. It should be the swap area. Please, very important, you should take note of that. Not the ext4, the swap area. Remember I told you that there are 3 major partitions that needs to be identified. The first one is the primary drive. The second one is the logical partition, the standard logical partition. Then the third one is the swap area. Most of the time, the swap areas are used as you know, as a backup for filing and keeping of information and all that. So this is, I think this is a summary of what we've done now. You can see the hash key 1 is the primary drive, which is 942 gigabyte ext4f. Okay, then you have hash key 5, the logical, which is 50 gigabyte of space. F extension 4 as well as the home. The first one is the root. Then the final one, hash key 6, you have the logical again, which is 50 gigabyte ever, but it's now the swap. Okay, so these are the 3 major things you need to set before you successfully install a Kali Linux operating system. So when you're done, you say finish. You can undo in case you want to make changes. When you finish the partitioning and write changes to disk, that's the option you should select. once you're satisfied with what you're seeing on the screen. So here you see that there is a confirmation. This is a confirmation of what you have done. You have hash key 1, 5, and 6, which represents the as SDAs, extension 4, and then as one swap. So it's telling you here that if you consider the changes below will be written to disks, otherwise you will be able to further changes manually. Okay. This will destroy the data on any partitions you have removed, as well as on the partitions going to be formatted. The partition tables of the following devices are changed SC000 SDA. So this is just a breakdown of it. You have hash key 1, 5, and 6 respectively. So you write this, you say yes. Now here, this is the software selection. Usually you can select all of these anyway, but then at your convenience you can select deselect anyone that you feel you might not need. They said at the moment only the core of the system is installed. The default selections will only install with the standard desktop environment and the default tools. You can customize it by choosing a different desktop environment or a different collection tool. Genome is usually used. Of course, you need the genome. Genome houses the desktop, common desktop, software like Office, and Corel equivalent and Excel, Microsoft Excel equivalent, and the likes. That's what genome stands for. So now the installation has started. The installation is going to run for a while, and all that is needed will be installed appropriately. With a very fast computer, this installation should take less than 45 minutes. And in some occasions, it can go as high as an hour or 2 hours, depending on the speed of the system in question, the processor. Okay, so here you see that you come to the configuring of GDM3. GDM3 is actually the display, and when you get here, usually what you should choose is the light DGM. That's the middle one, the middle option. It says that only one display manager can manage a given X server. X server is like an object that controls a whole lot, especially the display functionality under the Linux operating system. Now it says, but multiple display management packages can also be used. Please select which display manager should run by default. Okay, multiple display managers can run simultaneously if they are configured to manage different, scenarios. So when you get to this area, just ensure you select the light DM. So after the installation is complete, you're going to come to this screen where you would see the desktop. This is what the desktop looks like, and of course there's an icon there that shows the bit like start menu, where you see all these stuffs up there. And here, you from the terminal you can run commands, and these commands can enable you to specify tasks, executions, and so on and so forth. You can also check the version of the Linux operating system and do a host of other works. Linux is very good. It's very robust, and it's the popular platform for developing artificial intelligence applications. It's very good for you to know about them, and how to run the shell programs. Here you can see that this is Kali Linux 5.10.0 Kali 9 AMD 64. Okay, Kali 9. I think this was released in 2022, thereabouts. So that's just about all. Till next time, cheers and all the best.
Audio